formed the label in 2003 as an outlet for the music that I was making at the time. It was just something that would allow our band to be heard, you know, give a voice to the band, I guess. It wasn't a conscious decision at first, because we always hoped, you know, that we'd get a record deal, and you know, the same year I set up the label, we did actually get signed, and then the guy who owned the record label kind of took us under his wing and showed us the do's and don'ts. So we then decided, well, I decided to set up Canadia Records, but it was kind of I don't know, it was a reaction to how local bands were being treated at the time, I guess. There was a clique of people that, you know, naming no names, were quite significantly older than us, and they ran like a local music magazine, and you know, they were kind of heads of the scene kind of thing. But really, we didn't think it was fair that you'd have to turn up every week and you'd kind of be hoping that they'd give you a gig, you know, or something along those lines. You know, if you were nice to the founder of it all, then she would put you on a gig, or I mean, not to say that the band I was in didn't get any gigs, but we were the runts of the litter along with a few other bands, and it was horrible, to be honest with you, the whole thing, we just kind of weren't getting anywhere. So I set up Canadia Records, I think in the April of 2003, and we put out Warp's first album, Stand Proud Alone. And that was, I think we printed up, physically, I think we printed up something like, 300-400 copies of it. And it sold pretty well, and we sold them for £10 as well, postage and packaging. You know, these days you can get a brand new album on iTunes for £3, £4, which is... So I guess people do want the physical product of it, basically. So that was good. So we did that, and then we set up, Warp did a few albums, and we just released them, and each release got bigger and bigger. The crowning release, I think, was The Silent Majority, which we did in 2004. We had quite a lot of backing from management that we had at the time, and that's the label was on fire, I suppose, in a good way. And we had a local artist and a good personal friend of mine called Scott Murphy, and he did the artwork for that, which honestly, the album after that, we kind of we did one called Rocks after that, and we just kind of took the idea that he did and just made it kind of more, sci-fi kind of thing. But unfortunately, I don't have any copies of The Silent Majority, but what Scott did, the artwork that Scott did was as important, we feel, as the actual music itself. It was so, he printed it all out. I think it was in clay. I think I've actually got the original somewhere, but he did all the track listing on the back and everything. He did it all in clay and kind of chiseled the whole thing out. And he's still creating art to this very day. He's one of the greatest artists of our generation, I believe, actually. Quite humble about himself, obviously. I don't think he'd agree with that statement, but it's true. But yeah, that was a real big help to have someone such a vision on that album. We called the label Canadia Records because we have a song called Canadia, but it kind of goes a bit further back. We had a friend I used to work with, a good friend still, called Sue Turner, and she said that one day she wanted to go to Canadia. She meant Canada, obviously, and we just kind of, it just stuck, we just stuck completely. So it's also a made-up word as well, Sue being good with the made-up words. The aim, of things was to have an outlet for our music and that kind of thing. So it's not that, we didn't sign other bands straight away because I didn't really know what to do. I just didn't really have the resources, the funds to, fund that kind of thing for another band, because I'd never ask for money off the band, because I think that's something that's really wrong in this day and age. I mean, you don't hear of, you know, Factory taking money off Joy Division or Sub Pop asking Nirvana to fund the release. So these were things that, you know, my you know, morals of setting up a label wouldn't, you know, you never ask the band to fund it themselves, because that, how is that a label? You know, that's, you know, everyone's kind of chipping in then, the band, and then they want their money back, and people get really arsy about those kind of things. So it was just something I just didn't want to do. I just put yeah, it's really frustrating and irritating to, you know, myself and you know, other people that run record labels and independent, you know, independent artists and musicians. It's one of those things though. It's like you never hear someone talking about X Factor on the street. You never hear people talking about it at work. Really, everyone hates it. You know, oh, X Factor's rubbish. It's shit. And yeah, you see Facebook and Twitter on a Saturday night or Sunday night, whenever it's on, and it's just light with who's getting thrown out, and I can't believe Simon said that, or, you know, I can't believe Gary Barlow said this or that. So it's like in real life, you know, where are these? It's just throwaway, disposable pot, really, and it doesn't irritate me, because everyone who's ever won that is confined on a conveyor belt of, you know, crap, and then they're never heard of again. Steve Brookstein, you know, Michelle McManus, whatever else, that, you know, whoever else. But the Fireflies and the bands that I've signed and the label itself has been going for 10 years. Now, well, it'll be 10 years next year. If you cast your mind back to 10 years ago when X Factor or whatever, Pop Idol or whatever it's called, you know, there's no one about, because the cream always rises to the top. I think I don't mean that as in the band Cream always rise to the top, but you know, you look at the Who, the Beatles, Hendrix, the Stones, the Kinks, you know, the Byrds, Led Zeppelin. Obviously, everyone's heard of them, and they're great bands, but they're great bands for a reason. You know, they're great bands, and they were on good labels, and they put their music out, and people will listen to it in 200 years' time, a million years' time. You know, when the sun burns out, people are going to be listening to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin. You know, it's just the way. And a lot of indie labels have put out bands that will stand the test of time, like Rough Trade put out the first couple of albums, or first 3-4 albums by the Smiths. You know, Creation, although funded by a major, ultimately, you know, they had Oasis and Primal Scream and the Jesus and Mary Chain, and that, you know, Teenage Fan Club, that music will last forever. I mean, even if cult music's cult music for a reason. Do you know what I mean? Bands like ourselves, you know, the Fireflies are a cult band. We're not popular. We don't make music that's popular. We'll never be popular, I don't think. I don't think we'll ever come to the point where we'll ever play an arena. But there's a lot of indie bands that never played arenas, you know. If we play arenas, then fine. But you know, playing to 2, 3, 4, 5, 10,000 people a night, it is enough for this band. We have got the love and support that we'll ever need off our fans. And I'm not saying that I don't welcome the mainstream, but there's probably a reason we're not in the mainstream. You know, the attitude of the band, what we stand for, that kind of hatred towards X Factor and Simon Cowell rubs a lot of people the wrong way. It really does. You know, there's the vegetarianism side. I'm not saying everyone should be a vegetarian. I'm just saying that that's what I believe in, and that's what our drummer believes in. It's, you know, it's as simple as that. Yeah, Canadia Records nearly got bought out this year by another record label. I don't want to mention the name of the label or the name of the head of the label to give them any more infamy than they need, to be honest with you, but I think people that know us, know about our history, know that who it was, and we got offered to be bought out by this bigger label, much bigger label, and it all seemed to be going so well, and then it seemed that I've had more success with Canadia than he's had in 30 years. he, she. So it seemed financially viable to stay on the label, so we turned down a major indie record deal, if you will. So that was it was interesting. It made me feel good. You know, I keep in contact with the guy. He's a great guy, but just, you know, you've had your day, to be honest with you, and, you know, mark my words, you won't hear of that label again. I'm convinced of it. But, you know, in the past, had some good glories, but a bit frustrating really when you know, I was happily to, you know, just get rid of this label, you know, dissolve the label, go into liquidation and then start up again on this new label, but I just could see right through it. I could see right through it, and it wasn't going to be something that we were interested in. So. It didn't do anything. It just stalled. You know, didn't enter any of the charts. It didn't do anything whatsoever. And then I think it was in November or December 2010, about 2 years ago, just after Andrea joined the band, and it got to number 27 in the Amazon chart, and that was the biggest success we'd ever had. You know, we'd never had, and I found out that it sold something in a year, something like 3,000 copies, and that was streaming as well. You know, 3,000 streams or something in a year. And I was thinking that we have something here. We really have got something. You know, we've got fans, we've got backers, you know, people that really cared, you know, about the band and the music we were making. So, but I've had people, you know, say since that, oh, it's the Amazon chart or whatever. Well, if it's the Amazon chart and it's not a big thing, then you go and fucking do it, because I don't see any other bands round here or anywhere doing that kind of success. The amount of managers and labels and promoters, you know, pluggers I've spoke to this last 12 months, you know, 18 months, who have said that is a massive crowning achievement, then, you know, I'm really proud of that. You know, really proud. It was just hard work. It was gigging and gigging and gigging and gigging. And we did a gig in Leeds, you know, and our very, very good friend, Ruth and Jimmy, they put us on this gig with Blue Gillespie, who are quite a well-known band. They've got a famous lead singer, and they put us on supporting them, and the day after the album just rocketed up the Amazon chart. So that was my most proud moment. I'm probably going to forget one actually, now you're here. So there was something after that, I think. But the biggest thing was Cathedral, you know, Cathedral for Ashes. When it first came out, the label had a problem with distribution, the people we used, so they weren't prepared to put the album out on Amazon for some reason, and Amazon was our biggest, you know, outlet at the time. So we had financial difficulties with that. So the album came out on the 27th of February. 27th of February this year. Nice vinyl thing as well. Vinyl CD look. A few people said to me, will it play on a record player? So no, it won't. But yeah, that album came out, and it only came out on iTunes. You know, all around the world it came out on iTunes. It wouldn't come out on. It never came out on like Rhapsody or Napster, Tesco, Asda, and all that kind of thing. It didn't come out online whatsoever. Just iTunes. So that was a bit of a blow, to be honest with you, because I knew people were pre-ordering it. You know, looking forward to it coming out. You know, we had a lot of pre-orders, thousands, and then we settled the dispute. I think it was in the middle of June. As soon as that dispute was over, we just gigged, you know, so much this year. I think we'd done something like, we started on the 1st, 2nd of March. By June we'd done something like 30, 40 gigs or something. So anyway, it got to number 21 in the Amazon chart again. Made the local papers at least, and you know, we couldn't believe it, the fact that it was like 6, you know, spaces higher than Better to Burn Out. And we'd spent so much time and money, and the label had spent a lot of time and money on the album as well. So for it to do that, you know, number 21, we were like, you know, this is really something, this. And then people were like, you know, it is a great album. It's a great piece of work, and people are going to be listening to it for years to come. A lot of people said it's the best album they've heard in like 20 years. You know, since even, you know, definitely maybe, or 10, or Nevermind. You know, the greatest album since then, which I think is going a bit overboard, to be honest with you. But a lot of people have bought the album. I think with streaming as well, I think we've just hit over 10,000 downloads. We sold, I think, 200. We did a pressing. This was the pressing, obviously, of the 200 of those. They sold instantly, which was really good. Well, that's the only one left, I think. So yeah, so we you know, Better to Burn Out sold about 3,000. So I think the label in total has sold about 15,000 units. That is streaming and downloading as well. And then if you take into account the hits the labels had on YouTube as well, you know, most videos have had 2,000, 1,000 hits. It doesn't matter, to be honest with you. You know, I know for a fact there's a lot of local bands just sitting there on SoundCloud and YouTube, bands all over the world clicking their own thing, so it looks great. But if no one's hearing it, or no one's watching it, I really don't see the point, and I have not got the time in my day to sit there clicking to get views on YouTube. So. We've just signed a Runcorn rockabilly 1920s jazz outfit called Little Joe and the Misfits, and they're a really good band, so I'm producing their EP and we're putting that out. And then we have a band called The Space, which were a Holton band called 20 Well 40. I met with them a couple of weeks ago and we're releasing their debut album, and I'm thinking probably they've got a lot of stuff from years ago, so we could put a best of out or something like that. But I confidently believe, and with the Firefly's third album coming out April, March, I believe that this time next year, say November 2013, if the world still exists then, I do believe that the label will have sold around 25 to 30,000 copies of our combined albums, which were about 10 albums now. Like I say, people might think that's very much, but in this day and age, it is a lot.